Greetings, friends. This is Reverend Grant from St. George's. It's that time of year again. We are upon the season of Advent and the beginning of a new church year. It's such a special season marked by intentional waiting and patience and reflection on where God is dwelling among us and how God is doing a new thing through things great and small. One of my fondest memories growing up is connected to the season of Advent. My family and I, we would gather together every evening and we would light the Advent wreath. And as we sat in the darkness, basking in the light of that candle or those candles, we would sit and we would read through our Advent devotion and we would share where we saw God moving in our life that day. It taught me a very important thing, that stillness and waiting isn't a passive act, but rather it is an active action. It takes intentionality and energy to slow down in this busy world, to set aside time to be with God and to be with one another, to listen and look and wait for God moving in the world around us. It takes active participation on our part in order to receive and see what God is already doing. That is why this season of waiting, I think, is so profound for us right now in our day and time. We look forward and wait with anticipation for the celebration of Christmas, for the birth of Emmanuel, God with us. We wait with anticipation this season for the second coming of Christ, when the kingdom of God will be completed and the work that was begun at this first nativity will be made complete through God's second coming, when all that is evil will be made good, and all that has been torn down will be raised up, and those who have been silenced will be given voice, and those who are sick are healed, the dream of God for the world. And this year, we wait with much anticipation for peace. Peace in Ukraine and in the Holy Land. Peace within our own communities and in our neighborhoods. We wait with God and one another for an end of violence and hatred, for the divisions that separate us, for the mindsets and the heart spaces that condemn others to disappear, and for spaces of love and affirmation and renewal to be given birth to. We wait with expectancy, just as a family waits for the birth of a new child into their life. We wait too for God to be born yet again in our own life and day. And not just in the big ways, right? Especially in this season, I think it is important for us as followers of Jesus to create daily spaces to wait in silence and in reflection with God, so that we might see where God is already moving in our daily lives, in our actions and in our words, and the mundane things that we so often take for granted or just don't even pay attention to. Waiting in these threshold moments can help us see where God is at work. For you see, God always dwells in threshold spaces. God is always found at the forks in the road, when there are choices before us, where things are two things in one. God is there and is made manifest there and invites us to wait there, to rest there, to dwell there with him. This year, as we enter the season of Advent, our Evelyn Underhill region will be reading together Expectant, Advent Meditations by the Reverend Ann Kitch, who is also a beloved member of our diocese and serves a parish here in the Diocese of Newark. And what I love about this devotion and what I think it will be helpful for all of us is that she models within these texts her own prayer practice, her own reflections through Advent as she sits with God in these liminal in-between spaces. In particular, in her first devotion, she reflects a bit on an empty can of oatmeal and how, for many of us, we would see it as nothing but rubbish to throw in the trash can. But yet, when we look at it in a moment of stillness and waiting, when we reflect on it through the lens of God, we can start to see endless possibilities. Others might see a new storage container, or maybe something that could be made into a flower pot, or maybe a drum or a kid's art and craft project. But the point is when she stops and she waits and invites God to be revealed, all of a sudden, something that seemed to have no possibility now has endless possibilities. And is that not how we are, as containers of endless possibility of God's love and justice in the world? So, my friends, I invite you to join me this Advent season in waiting and dwelling intentionally and actively for God in our lives and the life of our community. And as we wait, as we open ourselves up and look and ponder for God, perhaps we will see revealed within us how God has transformed us and is inviting us to share the love and the joy of God's birth through Jesus with the world.